So I'm going to make the initial commit here, and that's going to be git commit-m adds text to something.rb, and I'm going to commit it like that. Cool. Questions so far? Like, this should be all code that you've been doing so far. And what we're going to do next is that we're going to create and switch to new branch. And Brett, do you remember how to switch to new branch?
Yeah, so would you make your repository on your GitHub account?
You can do that. Yeah, let's do that first. Let me open up a new browser window. Up here. Cool. So I have this is my GitHub homepage, and I'm going to click the green button that says new repository.
Yep.
And we're going to create the repository name. I am going to call this Git Class 2006. I want to note here that the name of the repository does not have to match the directory name on your computer. It doesn't have to match. However, it's generally good practice to match. The reason why it doesn't match was that when I created the directory the first time, I wasn't thinking about it, and I wanted to add the 2006 now, so that's fine. And GitHub does this check to make sure that everything is that there is no conflict with any existing repositories. Repository names have to be unique on your account. However, they do not have to be unique across GitHub. Cool, and I can make a description if I want to. That is optional. This is going to be a public repository, meaning anyone can see it. You can make it private, and when private repositories can only be seen between you and any contributors that you so add to the project. If I'm importing index, I'm not going to put a README because it's an existing repository. And I'm going to click create. And it's going to give me some quick setup stuff. Like this is fine. And I'm going to click on SSH. So one thing. And I want to push an existing repository from the command line. So I can just copy this and paste it. Oh, it's going to do my thing. I have to fix this. So I have a new computer, and I just set my SSH key this morning, and GitHub doesn't know that I want to use that by default yet, and I have to figure out how to change that. This is the joy of getting a new computer, is that you have to, you just
That's a question, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know you switched to the SSH, but then in copying the Git remote, it was still the HTTPS.
Yeah.
I don't know if those correlate or not.
That was probably that just changed itself. So I just refreshed and changed. So
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So let's actually do this. Let's show you what to do when this kind of thing happens. When it's like, oh, I need to change my origins. Like this is an unexpected but useful kind of detour. I want to type in git remote -v, and I can see that I have my origins here. They're set to using HTTP instead of Git, not instead of SSH. So git remote rm origin, and I'm going to hit git remote.v, and I see that what that does is it removes my remotes, and so now I can add them. And that. And I'm going to set my origin by typing in git remote add origin to the SSH endpoint, for lack of a better term. And I type in git remote -v. And I see here that I've set my origins to use SSH instead of HTTP. Removing and resetting origins is something that you will do if you've ever accidentally cloned instead of forked, or vice versa. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's like this was a reach to remember what the exact commands were, because it's like this is something I only use if I've messed up. And so I generally have to Google things because this is not a command I use often, and like that's perfectly okay to do that.
Mike, can you
Yep.
open your Safari real quick where your GitHub was?
That?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. So this is the page you see when you create a new repository, but nothing's been added to it yet. And so let's go and show you how we can go ahead and change master with main. I don't. Angela, you might know this. Have you seen when GitHub said it's going to make this change like by default?
Oh, I heard someone say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I know that they're working on changing it, but like I just don't. I've not read anything about a timeline. So anyway, what we're going to do is that there are 2 steps. Actually, let me go ahead and commit this. Well, actually, let me push this to GitHub, because I think that you'll more likely encounter the circumstance where you are going to be retrofitting old repositories rather than creating one. So we're just going to do git push origin master. It's going to say like, hey, I want to use origin by default. I'm going to push the master. We see that there. We see that's gone. If I go back to this page here and I refresh, it will show me my repository with the files committed to it. So that's gone up and thing. And so now we want to modify our repository to use main instead of master. So what we're going to do is that we have this command. We're going to do git branch -m master main. What this does is that with the -m switch, we are moving the git history from master to a new branch called main. Right, so now we're on main, and if we do git log, we can see here that I had that one thing. So git branch -m branch name is going to create a new branch called with the second branch you enter name is going to be created. It's going to move the entire history from the first branch to the second branch. I want to see that one more time. When you do git branch -m branch name 1, branch name 2, it will create branch name 2, and it's going to move the history from branch name 1 to branch name 2. Nico?
Do we have to do this? Do we have to do this for each directory?
You should do this. It's generally we want to do this going forward.
Like for each directory, right?
A directory or repository?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So like so for example, for each project that we have a repository, we have to do this.
Going forward, you should do this.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
I'm going back a few steps. I don't know how important it is, but you use git push -u origin master.
Yep.
How important is that -u? Because I've never used that before.
It's the first time. You should do that the first time.
The first time. Okay.
Yep. Cool. All right. So now that we've switched, we now have to get this branch up. Git push -u origin main. So essentially, to kind of build upon your question, what the U does is that you're establishing an upstream connection with the -u. Just saying like, hey, we're just going to use main from now on. And so we've seen here that we've set main up to attack the remote branch from main from origin.
So the branch that you're on now is different than the original?
Yes.
So
what we're doing here is that we're setting it so that main is going to be our main branch going on from here on.
What were you on before?
Master.
Master.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So now we've done that. The next step is that we have to make the updates here. Cool. So we want to go to settings, branches, and we're going to change the default branch to be main. Yep. And it's a straightforward user interface here. We don't have any branch protection rules, so we don't have to worry about that. we go back to the thing. We go to the master branch, and we delete this branch.
Yeah, so like I have master and main. When I go to main, like there's nothing. So the tutorial I saw says click on branches and delete the master branch.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the delete button.
If you click on the branches next to the commit where it shows one commit, two branches, I think it's in there, Mike.
Say that one
So-
more time slowly.
Where it shows two
The
branches,
branch.
one
Oh, okay.
commit. Right there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. There we go. Your branches. Goodbye. Gone. You always move things around, and I have trouble finding it. But there we go. We've got our. We are on main. We have one commit. We have one branch. 0 tags. It's complaining that I need to add README. I'm not going to do that right now. Questions about the whole process. I will post after class is over. I will post a quick tutorial on how to make this change yourself with all the commands listed and an explanation of what everything does.
Can you go back to the terminal real quick?
Yeah.
Just a quick view.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions before we move on? Cool. Let's take a Pomodoro break. Let's be back at 9:35. So, okay. Where were we? We switched. We are coming on main. Let me get back down here. I have my terminal set up so that it'll tell me there what branch I'm in. That is something you can look up and see how to do. When we create we can create and switch to a new branch by using git checkout-b. For example, if I were to do git checkout-b, let's call it feature -1. What it'll do is that it will go ahead, create that feature feature 1 branch, and it'll switch me to it. I can go back to a branch by do git branch main. Oops. Git branch creates. Git branch is another way that we can. Git branch will create a branch but not switch you to it. That's the difference between git checkout b branch name or git branch name. If I want to go to an existing branch, I do git checkout aim, like so. I've been practicing my typing, I promise you. It's getting there. One day. And we can push and pull against branches. I think it's important to remember, I think we showed you this earlier, git remote-v will show us our remotes, and we can add remotes with git remote add. But those aren't things you should be doing too often. But I guess the question is, like, we've shown you how to create and switch branches. But what are branches for, Sarah?
Branches are for you can kind of break it down and work on maybe one particular class or feature in a branch and wait until you kind of get that working and flowing before you merge it to the main.
Right, because it's like when we think about it, like when you're working on a particular iteration, feature, whatever, like are you just done like that? Like no. And then like this class is called Git For Pairs, so it's like the idea that you're going to be working and going to be finished, quickly is like that's just not plausible, because it's like with any kind of problem it takes time to solve. And the idea is that as you're working on code, you're updating your code, like this could potentially break it for someone else. right? So your main branch is where we are going, is like your, what I would call like known good. Like whatever is on main has to be, it should be like whatever is working that you know is working properly, that is just 100% good to go. And that means that your main branch does not have commented code out. It does not have broken or skipped tests. Like your whatever is on your main branch should be your best work. So this way, anyone that comes onto your project can just jump in, pull from it, and keep working. There should be no debuggers in there. Like there should never, you should never have a floating binding up pry somewhere.
Mike,
Yes.
you wrote get remote -v and get remote add. Are those the same thing?
No, get remote -v is what tells you what your remotes are. It's like, hey, tell me what my remotes are. So if I just do, I'll show you a little more detail here. Get remote will just show me that I have origin. Is like one of my remotes. The get remote -v, the V stands for verbose, and it says like give me more details about my remotes. Cool. The next thing I want to talk about is cloning and difference between cloning and fork and cloning, right? And so you've cloned. Hopefully, you've all cloned repositories previously throughout your time here. So turning you, hopefully, you should have. We told you to clone things. And when you clone a repository, what it does is that it copies a repository from GitHub, or not necessarily GitHub, but from somewhere, to your local computer. And you've done that using the clone command. And so when you clone a repository, you are interacting with that said repository by pushing and pulling branches. So, like, so for example, in this pair project, you are all working on the same repository, and you have to do that because, like, this is how multiple people work on the same bit of code, and this is how multiple people are able to kind of keep up to date on what everyone's working with. And so the idea of what forking is that sometimes you might want to work on some code that isn't yours, right? Let's say you are, let's say Pry, for example, right? Do any of you own Pry? Do any of you like have permission to go and start changing in like the Pry repository? Like no, no. It would pretty not great if like important software that was out there on the internet could just be changed by anyone. Like that seems, what I would call suboptimal. And the idea here is that you might want to work on these repositories, and you do that using a fork. And the idea is that a fork is a way that you are going to copy the contents of a repository and make it your own, and the changes you make to this repository do not get reflected into the changes that are on the original one. And so the idea here is that this copy, the repos, gets associated with your username, and then therefore this copy, this fork that you made, is completely yours, and you can do whatever you want with it. And then once you clone that fork repository, you can make the changes as you will. The reason why we do this is that, like, this is how kind of code gets changed with like large open source projects. Is that someone has an idea, like, hey, I could do this thing that could make like you have some idea that could make Pry better, right? So you fork and clone it, and you make the enhancements or bug fixes to whatever whatever you're working on. And then, like, when you finish, what you do is that, as you've done previously with the independent challenge, you submit your pull request to the original repository. And then the owners of that repository can look at the pull request, which include the changes that you've made and everything of that nature. in order to see like, hey, are these changes worthwhile? Are they good? Do they fix a thing? Do they add? And they look at the code. Usually they comment in on it, make suggestions, whatever, send it back. But eventually, if this code is good and they want it included, they'll go ahead and merge that pull request there to the original repository. And this will be this kind of workflow will become more evident as, like, in this pair project, you will be using this pull request workflow. Like, that was a lot of information. Like, we don't expect you to, like, kind of get a feel to, like, understand it completely until we actually go through and you get a chance to practice on your own projects. But at this point, do you have any questions about, like, kind of how the like forking, the difference between forking and cloning?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
I got a question. So I know the difference between forking and cloning, but in order for the repo to be cloned, it has to be forked first.
So no, you can just go out and clone any repo out there. The idea is that you don't have any permissions to change that on GitHub. Okay. Forking it takes a copy of that repo on whoever's account that is, puts it in your account, and then that copy is yours to choose to do whatever with.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. Any questions so far about anything at all we've talked about?
I got a question, Mike. So in regard to, and maybe you already said this, I might have zoned out briefly, but
that's fine.
Did you say, so if you were wanting to, like, make a new feature on Pry, let's just say hypothetically, fork it, you clone it, from there, would you make a new branch, or would you just work off the main branch?
You always make a new branch. You always make a new branch.
Okay, and then you submit your branch pull request to the main of theirs. Is that what you do?
When you submit a pull request, you've seen those two drop-down boxes.
Right.
And, like, make sure you read those carefully, because I have this bad habit where I'll just keep clicking OK till it works. You should not do that, and that's how I'll often submit a pull request in the wrong place, or it doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera.
Perfect, thank you.
I got a question. If you have a collaborator on your on the main repo, there's no reason for that person to fork that repo, right?
No, there isn't. However, if you are a collaborator, you should always let me Are you talking about a project or like a big thing like Pry?
Well, for example, like our Battleship project last night, Daniel and I were just kind of working. I made him a collaborator.
Yeah, you shouldn't fork.
Shouldn't fork. Okay.
No. The forking is for people that don't have that access. Right. I would also say that like if you are on the job, you will not be pushing to master. Like you'll never. I'm sorry, main. You'll not be pushing to main. Like no one just does that. It's workflow.
Even if you're a collaborator, you're still just pushing to your own branch. Okay.
You're always branching. You're always pull requesting, because when you put the pull request in, it's a stop point that allows everyone to look at what you've done. For good or for worse, I say that look at what you've done. That came out very aggressively. Like, you look at what you've done. I'll rub your nose. Like, no. Like, it gives an opportunity for everyone to, like, the whole concept of like two sets of eyes better than one, right? Broader viewpoints, broader, spheres of experience, right? We want to look at, like, has many people to look at it, comment on it, and as a group, you all decide, like, does this go, or someone decides this goes in or not.
Okay.
I think it is very, very important for you to in your pull request message and your Git commit messages to learn how to write very well, write very clearly, and write in a technical manner very well. Like some companies will look at what you do in GitHub. One of the people from my cohort during a job interview, they just went into her GitHub, started looking at like the process and started grilling her on like messages and discussions in there. We've had we've had companies that's like, hey, we'd like to, speak to some students about potentially hiring them. And then, the jobs team have been like, okay, who you like to talk to? And oh, no, we already know who we want to talk to. We looked at the GitHubs. So, like, I think that getting to good habits is going to be, like, super, super important. I can actually show you some stuff from my own personal experience. I will preface this by saying, like, the repo I'm going to show you was a Mod 3 project. It was a 3-week project with 5 people, and at the end, we got a little salty towards each other. So please keep that in mind, that we were not all in the best mental states when we were making these comments to each other. So, again, we did, like, y'all know what, y'all understand, like, it's starting. This is a stressful place. We were not in the best. Okay, so if we look at our pull requests, so you can see that a lot of these have a lot of comments on them, and then, like, what we used to do is that we would say that, hey, we would only communicate about code via GitHub, because y'all have been Slack for an amount of time now. How easy is it for you to find a message that someone sent you on Slack concerning a specific topic?
Not very.
Good luck. Good luck. So that's why we wanted to say, like, hey, if we communicate purely on GitHub, 1, it makes us look like, hey, we know how to use GitHub. 2, we have a paper trail. We can look at, kind of anything. So let's see here. Yeah, so what we do is you create some custom labels, like ready for review, and this one's merged. Like Jeff here, just some commented about 2 missing headers and things that he fixed. This is me not at my best state. You fix the others, but leave this one. Like, that was very snippy on my part. I recognize that now, and this was an wholeheartedly unkind comment. And when I say, like, don't do this, like, this is don't leave snippy comments to your teammates in GitHub. Like, don't do this. Like, be kind. Like, we were all stressed, and this how I exhibit stress and deal with stress is I make snippy comments in GitHub. And so I've been working on. I think that I'd like to say that I successfully conquered not making snippy comments on GitHub.
You being snippy, Mike? No way.
I know. It is. I know it's a stretch, but we also, like, something like this. Like, we had tags called help wanted. So, like, if you wanted someone to look in, if you look at the open, like, pull request, you can see help wanted. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pitch in, take a look at this. We have a label called back to submitter because we had this policy in our group members that no pull request goes in the first time. Like, no code you write the first time is ever good enough. So, because we all understood that any code we wrote could always be improved upon, we always had a someone to look at it, and when someone sent back to the submitter with some kind of feedback, right? Because we felt that we are not good at programming, and we will always want that setback. And then that person would go back, and we had a bug, chore, issue, due, question, ready for review, and we'd add those in. Leah, you have a question?
Yeah, so it looks like pull request after comments and submitting. Is it best practice to kind of write what you did and not how you implemented it?
I would say the what and the why is pretty good. Is what I would put in your pull request message. There is this philosophy, and I think that it is, when I think about this philosophy, it's that Ruby code should be written in such a way that it's very clear. I often joke and say Ruby is essentially bad English, because someone that's even new to Ruby can kind of look at the words and kind of be able to tell what exactly is happening. So I feel that your Ruby code should communicate how it's being done very clearly. However, the choices you make, the why, are not really sometimes very clear, and it may not be clear why you chose why to take a certain approach. So I feel your pull request messages and perhaps even comments about what like code should be focused around why you do something, and your big message for your pull request should include like, hey, this pull request includes what. I would highly recommend finding some pull request templates. Those are great to use because you don't have to think about like what am I going to put in there. You just fill out this form and it's done.
Okay.
A lot of people have a number of great pull request templates out there that you can just Google and find. Find one that you like and your teammate likes, and that'll be great.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
Nell?
So for the pull request process, you're saying we, if we're working on a project with one or more people, we work locally on our own separate branch. We push to that branch remotely, and then we pull requests into the main branch remotely. Is that right?
Yes. So to kind of repeat, like when you are working on a feature, you make sure your computer's up, your main is up to date. You make a branch, you do your thing, you update that branch when it's ready. What I would do before it's ready, when you think it's ready, is that I would pull down main again, merge main into your branch, because you want to make sure that whatever changes you've made are up to date and will work with any changes that happened between the last time that you updated your main.
Gotcha.
Right? And then when that's good to go, you make sure that your code is good to go. That's when you submit the pull request. Yeah, I think that for a two-person project, sending a pull request back to the submitter is not really necessary. But I think that if have the submitter make some suggestions if there need to be suggestions, like wholeheartedly do that. Yes. Does that answer your question? Any follow up? Are we good?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Corey.
I think my question was similar to Nell's, just in that the pull request process, and two, just wondering what it looks like to test the code before you do the pull request and the merge. Like you talked about pulling down the main, merging your code. Have we gone over that, or are we going to go over what that process looks like?
You are going to practice that a little bit and just play with it.
Okay.
And we're going to try to, later on in the class, Tim and I will try to, on purpose, screw up a repository to show you when things go wrong. Otherwise, you may have heard the term before, catastrophe.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's always challenging there's a term called the dreaded merge conflict. When you try to merge in, this is what's going to go wrong. When you try to merge in the main with what you have on your branch, and it's not happy about it, GitHub is very smart in that it will try to figure out what you meant to do and kind of squish the two code together. But the problem is that when two people are working on the same kind of code, there could be the situation where the algorithm can't figure out what you wanted to do. And we have what's called a merge conflict. The problem is that merge conflicts happen when you don't want it to happen to, but it actually is a little annoying to try to force a merge conflict to happen. So we're going to try to do that for you at the end of this class.
Sounds good.
Cool. Other questions at this point? A lot of great questions from you all about what we do here. I'm going to try to find another point where I was snippy, and you have until then to ask a question. Corey, is that another question, or is the hand still up? Cool. Emily's like a great teammate. She had her Git workflow was much better than mine. She always did great stuff. And I think it's also important in that every single pull request you review, like this is the opposite. Like, hey, you don't have to be snippy. You could have a compliment like this. Love this breaking it out. Like, be positive. One thing. Oh, I don't know if I can find this, but like here's a pro tip for you. You could put animated GIFs into your comments in pull requests, and that is something that everyone always enjoys. So like brighten your teammates' day by adding animated GIF. I think that there are a lot of GitHub related ones that you can just search and find that are fun. Like, just search for pull request. You're gonna come with some gems. Oh, this is not fun. All right, there used to be something you could search. You just search pull request, but
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
You didn't say GIF, did you?
I did. Is the proper way to say it. For many reasons. One, the documentation annotated with a soft G sound. Two, the soft G sound is so much more pleasing to the ear. So even if it is wrong, it is still the superior way.
Feel like it's your agenda, Mike.
I'm not pushing an agenda. Y'all can be wrong if you want to. I mean, that's how this works. See, the thing is that I'm not a crusader about it. Y'all can just be wrong, and that's okay. Cool. So right now, what we're going to do is that we are going to actually let's take a break, and then I'm going to put you into breakout groups, and then you're going to practice some workflows based on a lesson plan. So let's come back at 10:05, and we're going to give you some time with your project partners to kind of work on this.